Hello, folks. It is Thursday today, and we are live once again, bringing to you inspiration series for the month of April. Thank you so much for joining in. Hi, Samita. Hi, Mitu. Hi, Swati. Thank you so much for joining. We're waiting for our coach, for Gregg to join, who is the coach of the hour. And he's going to join us in just a matter of few seconds. Okay, just waiting. Okay, he has to open his video, and here is live. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in, for tuning in. So we are live, and today's session is going to be something that is very, very near and dear, a topic that's very near and dear to me. Hi, Gregg, can you hear me? All right.
Yep.
All right. Do you want to place your camera a little lower so that we can see more of you? Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I have to do that.
Yeah. So this level is perfect, actually. Okay. Awesome. Okay. All right. Okay. So, audience, Gregg has been very, very gracious to agree. Right. He's being extremely hospitable and very, very gracious to agree to get up so early in the morning for him to actually go live for us and take us through a live demo of EFT tapping. So what is EFT tapping? Why is that important? What is the relationship between tapping and anxiety? What is anxiety? What is stress? That is what today's conversation is going to be about. The words like stress, anxiety, overwhelm, those are topics, those are situations, those are emotions that you and me, the audience, deal with on a daily basis. So today, what can we learn to overcome those emotions that may be debilitating your life today? To help us through today's session, we have Gregg Berman. To know more about him, please check out the handle In Connection with Nature. His page has a lot of information. While his page has a lot of information, you can also go check his website, which is also inconnectionwithnature.com. So, Gregg, let's begin the conversation by understanding who you are. So, talk to us about who you are.
I'm a human.
Right.
Yeah.
See that, huh? Didn't know that.
Yeah. Pretty surprising, huh? You wouldn't have known just by looking at it.
Oh, come on. We were not talking about that. And here I thought I was talking to, maybe an alien, and I thought I had the smarts to talk to an alien.
I have aspects of that too, and I believe
All
you have
right,
the smarts.
thank you. Go ahead.
But I am somebody who grew up with a lot of anxiety, and the first thing that supported me in healing that was nature. So I'm somebody deeply passionate about nature and the natural world, and about supporting others in healing. And I'm an RN. I do that a couple of days a week in an integrative medicine office, and then life coach, practice EFT, support people with mindfulness in nature and connection to self and the natural world.
Do you want to tell the audience what an RN stands for?
Registered nurse.
So for the people who are watching, we know that Gregg has multiple jobs. He wears multiple hats. And yet, I want you to realize he has given us the honor of his time. Okay, so we need to respect that and appreciate the fact that he's taking time out for us. So coming back, so you dealt with a lot of anxiety, maybe throughout your life. How did you, what enabled you to get into tapping? And why tapping from all modalities out there?
Yeah, it's interesting because I tried a lot of things, and while I'm not saying that nothing else supported me, and that includes medication, that includes nature, as I say, which was really helpful. That includes, like, I became a hypnotherapy practitioner, but I honestly don't remember how I initially found tapping, but I think it was when I found it, I started, just the process. I was always looking for something thematic, and the process of tapping on the body, it just opened up something for me, and things fit, and I felt so much relief, and I remember I also have ADD, and when I first started tapping, like the things that I would read said, we can't say that tapping helps with that, and I was finding it was helping with that, and it just, something in my nervous system said yes.
And that's what alignment is, right? When there's a vibration, when you align, when things have to click, it just clicks. It's like gears just falling together.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Right. And
Exactly.
then there is power. So, right. So
exactly.
What is it? First, let's empower the audience. Let's teach the audience about what EFT is, and then we can get into this entire demo thing, right? So what is EFT?
Yeah, so EFT it stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and that, that is what it is in its core, is freedom from our negative emotions. And so what you are doing is you're physically tapping on points in the body, and we can go over all of those points later, but these points are, traditionally used in acupuncture, acupressure, and there are meridians in the body. And what we are doing as we tap is we're activating the parasympathetic nervous system. And so typically, if we are thinking about something that makes us anxious or fearful or angry, or traumas, we're activating our sympathetic or our fight, flight, freeze response in the body. And each time we think of it, we're recycling that process. But with tapping, we're rewiring the nervous system to say, okay, I can have that thought, I can be aware of this, and my body can do something else. And so we're training our body to have a different reaction to these thoughts, and through that, to ultimately have different thought processes as well, more empowering, healing thought processes.
Wonderful. And I know for a fact, I mean, given that I'm in this field also, there are multiple modalities to deal with stress and anxiety, right? And anyone who is a therapist or who is a psychotherapist does deal with a lot of clients and patients who come to them with anxiety, stress, overwhelm, right? So that said, I want to just talk a little bit about, just for the purpose of our audience, right? Make them understand the difference between what an overwhelm is, what anxiety is, or what stress is, correct? So, and it can be a back and forth, right? So, a discussion between you and me. But for me, an overwhelm is basically an overload of emotions, right? Something where you feel that, hey, I want to just stop, I want to give up, or it's becoming too much. It's an overload, essentially, right? So that is an overwhelm. And anxiety is, according to the dictionary, because I was just reading that, it says that it is, an intense, excessive, or persistent worry or fear. So basically, your ability to control something. You want to be able to control a situation. You want to be able to control the output or a result, but you're not able to do that, correct? And that leads to anxiety. Do you talk to me about your experiences with overwhelm and anxiety? Do you have certain examples?
Yeah, I do, and I'll give you some examples in a moment. But I would also say, I completely agree with what you just said. And in addition, anxiety is not simply those thoughts, but it is a feeling in the body. Sometimes we're in such a state of overwhelm that we don't have a lot of thoughts, but our body is aware, and so our body is, in the state of anxiousness, the state of discomfort in some sense. And so it often is derived from conscious thoughts, but it may not be conscious as well.
Manifestation can be from the subconscious or unconscious mind too.
Exactly. And so, some of the things for overwhelm, I mean, I'll give you just one example from my life, and that was, I mean, I still get overwhelmed or anxious, but but not to the level that I used to. And I have better tools to handle it. But, as a human, we all always have work to do. But one way that this used to show up for me is if I wanted to read a book and I would think, all right, well, the thought of reading one book would make me think, well, actually, I should read this other book, or oh, but then there's this other book, and I want to look at this book as well, and suddenly I would have like 6 books in my head and be thinking, I don't know which one to start with. I don't know which one is the right one, and then I would end up not reading any at all, because it'd be like, oh my God, this is just way too much. I need to do anything to get my mind out of that space, because it was just too hard to deal with.
Fair enough. I think that's a wonderful example. Such a simple example, but it kind of conveys really the essence of what an overwhelm is. Right?
Yeah. So if you take that daily life, you're a mom and you have a job, and your kids are all doing something, and you're focusing on this project that you have to do, and you got to cook dinner, and then you just go down the line. It can feel like overwhelmed, stress, too much.
I'm sure. And how long have you been doing this?
I've been studying this basically all my life to heal myself. As a practitioner, I've been doing this for about 6-7 years.
Okay. All right. And is this something that you recommend that we could do to ourselves?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of the things that I love about EFT. The very first place that I heard about it, it was the tapping solution with Nick Ortner, and one of the tenets of it is that we can do this for ourselves. And so when I'm working with my clients, I'm also teaching them how to do it with themselves, and with it, and we'll go more into the specifics in a little bit, but you can be tapping on any point, you can be saying any thoughts, and rewiring your nervous system. The difference between doing it with a practitioner and doing it on yourself is that the practitioner can ask you questions and deepen the process, but it's still incredibly effective to do it on your own.
Wonderful. So what you're really going to be doing for us, the audience, is really also leaving a breadcrumb in the universe of good karma, right? Where
Exactly.
Where anyone who watches this video today, or in the days that follow, or the years or the months that follow, they're going to go back with so much learning.
Okay. Yeah, and can watch it again and again and tap along with the video, or use that process to tap along with themselves. And one that I'll share, even though right now as we work together, we're going to be doing this physically, you can also do tapping mentally. And this is something I teach for people who have trouble sleeping, is when you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't get to sleep, and once you've got what we'll do in the video and are aware of the points, then you can mentally, because you don't want to wake yourself up at night further by doing something physical, you can mentally tap on all the points and say things like, even though I can't fall asleep right now, I love and accept myself. And that, like, I use it for myself, and it's amazing.
It does sound pretty amazing. It sounds very empowering, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so how do you want to do this? I mean, we have a lot of time while you and me can talk about, I do want to also know you besides just being a coach, right? Because that's important too, right? I mean, that would be really selfish and mean of us to just say, hey, you have something nice, okay, why don't you give it us, and then say, ta-ta, bye-bye, nice to meet you, and nice to meet you. That's just mean, right? What do you do for fun? I mean, talk to me about who you are outside of this, outside of your professional world.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I'm passionate about nature, and so spending a lot of time in nature, whether hiking, kayaking. I've been a kayak instructor for
Wow.
decades, leading multi-day and multi-week trips all over the world. I actually moved to California years ago because it was better waves, stronger conditions, and so passionate about being out on the water. And close to me is it's called Fitzgerald Marine Reserve, a nature connection area, and I lead trips through the tide pools there. And so exploring nature in general is something I love. And then dance, I don't know if you know what this is, but something called ecstatic dance, where it is basically freedom of movement. So there's not any set things. You're just moving to the music, which was something that was very freeing for me, because I used to be terrified of dance, and anything that had these rigid movements I would get overwhelmed. And then I'm always passionate about the human relations, and so even though I do this for work, it's in my personal life too, with practices like circling or authentic relating, which are about us sharing our full selves with each other, and letting go of some of the stories of how we're supposed to show up.
I like your usage of words, actually. I like it very much. And I think I'm gonna borrow it, right? Yeah, so very well said. If you can let go of the perception of how you're supposed to show up, I think a lot of the reason for anxiety also disappears.
Yeah, I agree. My signature program in the work that I do is called Permission to Be Your Full Self, and so it is all about that concept that we've been instilled by society, by parents, by the movies. These there's a specific way that you're supposed to show up, a specific job you're supposed to have, a specific way you're supposed to act, and that is not always aligned with who we truly are. And when we have this belief that there is something wrong with us, or that we have to show up different, then that creates all kinds of discord in our nervous system. And so for me, it's how do we show up fully? How do we have compassion, not only for others, but compassion
exactly.
for ourselves?
That's step one, right? Self-love and acceptance. Because until and unless you don't accept yourself, there's always going to be insecurity. And as long as you're insecure, there's always going to be anxiety. So I think somehow it's interrelated.
Exactly. And it's amazing how insidious it can be to not accept ourselves, even when we're thinking, oh yeah, I do love myself. I do care about myself. And yet still the ways that we talk about ourselves are the ways that we consciously and unconsciously beat ourselves up for how we show up. It's important to notice those and to rewrite the story and allow ourselves to have a different experience.
Exactly. And that is, in essence, is what therapy is all about. Right? That's the essence of therapy, essentially. Right. So coming back to EFT, how do you want to do this? So you said you're going to first guide us and teach us about the different points in our body, right?
Yep.
So do you want to begin? Do you want to take us through it? And
yeah. I'll take you through. So initially, and one of the things, and this will go to when people want to do this later, there's lots of videos on YouTube. You can look up anything, tapping for burns, tapping for pain, and and I want to say that too, that we've talked about anxiety and overwhelm, but tapping can help a lot of things, and sometimes I'm a little afraid to say that to people because it can sound like snake oil, like the tapping does everything, but it actually does. And the reason for that is because physical manifestations in our body all have an emotional component too. So even let's just say, for example, I break my leg and because I tripped and fell, and then if I'm just feeling sad because of the pain itself, or if I'm calling myself stupid because I tripped, or I was going to go on vacation and now I can't go on that vacation, feeling upset about that. You know, all of these different things are gonna impact, or, you know, the doctor tells us how long it's going to heal and we feel pain about that, or it reminds us of when our parent injured our leg and the effect on the family. You know, all of these things can impede healing, can increase the pain. And so working on the emotional components, you know, it's not just for anxiety, anger, overwhelm, but it can support physical things as well.
Completely agreed. I think that makes total sense.
So, oh yeah, and so I was saying with that, so you know, once we are done here, obviously you can always come back and look at this, but you can also look at whether it's my videos or other people's videos on YouTube. There's a wealth of EFT for pain, EFT for tapping. And so the reason I'm sharing this now, both so that people watching can know other resources, but also to know there is a basic recipe that they call it for tapping, and you may see people doing it slightly different, but it all
Fair enough. And also they might also want to get in touch with you, right? If they see the video and they somehow do resonate with you, right, and they would want to you know take this process further, I think it's quite all right for them to, you know, comment about it or get in touch with you, and you can take this forward as well, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah, reach out to me either here or Facebook, or you know, my website, again, in connection with nature.com.
Wonderful.
So just showing the tapping points initially. So we start on the side of the hand, and it's you know, I typically use 3 fingers, and I'm tapping on the side of the hand. And on this, you know, I'm gonna show you a generic way, but I'll give a couple explanations along the way. So for some people, especially people who have a history of physical abuse, sometimes the act of tapping can feel re-traumatizing. And so for something like that, you might want to just, like, you can touch that area. You don't have to actually be touching it, or rub that area. The amount of the thing is to activate the point, and like I said earlier, I mean, I even do this mentally. And so the key is activating the point, and not exactly how. And it definitely does not have to be a lot of pressure. It's just in some way activating the point. So we will be, you know, or I will be tapping, but if that doesn't work for everybody who's watching, feel free to do it in a slightly different way.
Okay. So the first part is this. So 3 fingers or 2 fingers? 3.
It doesn't really matter, but I use 3 just to get more.
Okay. All right.
And then once you're doing that, the way that I tend to do it is I'll switch hands. And then I'll do both hands together.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, that works too. Yeah.
Yep. And then the next thing, and
so why are we doing this?
That, like, if
so what does this point signify? What is the point for?
So they call this point a reversal point, and what happens is that as we have, you know, some of these thoughts, you know, there are reasons why we want things stuck in our body, like unconscious reasons, and so tapping on this point helps to change that story.
Okay.
And so we're always in any tapping that you see will be or almost any tapping that you see will be starting with this point, even if they do it ways. It's always this point.
All right. Fine.
And so next point is top of the head.
So right on top.
Right on top. And
towards
so,
the front or towards the center?
tend
I guess towards the center. Okay. So we're tapping towards the center. All right. I need to define.
And some people will do something like this where they're going around, and you can do that too. And you can use one hand, two hands. And again, I want to say that I'm going to show all the points, but again, for anybody who has any sort of physical limitations, it's fine if you skip a point. You know, if you have trouble getting your arms that high or whatever, you don't have to hit every single point. And in fact, sometimes you may find one point that works really well for you, and you want to do that. So this is what they call the basic recipe, and the basic recipe was designed initially when tapping was developed. There were very specific protocols for okay, if you're feeling this, you do this set of tapping points, and if you feel this, you're doing this set of tapping points. And then somebody put it all together in like, well, instead of doing that to make it easy so that everybody can do it, let's just hit all the most common points, and that way it makes it easy so that anybody can do it. You don't have to know, oh, I've got to hit
Understood.
a specific
Noted.
point.
All right. Fair enough. Okay, so our audience, hi Ailey, hi Deepika, hi Heyman Gymnastics, thank you for joining in. So what we're doing is going through the set of points that are required, that are important for this entire process of EFT tapping. So listen on, and he's going to take us through it a little bit more. Okay.
Yeah. So again, these first points, top of the head, and again, one hand, two hands, doesn't matter. And then the eyebrow point, so right at the end of the eyebrow.
Okay, so it's not the sinuses. You're talking about right here. In the center, right here. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Right there. And then side of the eye, so the divot right on the side of the eye.
Okay.
And then the bone right below the eye.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes, if anybody knows EMDR, sometimes I'll have people. Most of the time, you don't see that, but I will use that sometimes. And then under the nose, and then the crease on the chin, and then the collarbone point is actually just below the collarbone and slightly to the side. And then the next point is, like on women, it would be about the bra line. It's about 3 inches down from the underarm. And so on the side, on a camera, it can look like I'm tapping on the front, but it's on your sides. And there's 2 ways of doing this. One is doing it this way, or the other is sort of giving yourself a hug.
Okay, so when you say hug, so we're actually tapping on the side. You're not tapping in front. It's just the side. Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So we tap the side. Fair enough.
And then the last point that we'll do is, so it's right under the breast and on
the rib cage. Okay. Fair enough. Okay.
Yep. And so one of the things is that people can get anxious or overwhelmed about, am I tapping the right way on the right point? And I want to give people full permission that this works however you do it. You can't do it wrong, and everybody's going to feel a little bit different, and people often notice, oh, this point feels good, or it feels better when I do it right here. And so that is the biggest thing. What feels good in your body? What feels good to your nervous system? And to be doing things that way.
All right.
So there's 2 ways we can do this. I mean, I can take people through a basic tapping, or if people wanted to share, like, I'm, like, for example, if people share a general something about like what makes them feel anxious, I could use specific things that people were
as an
saying
example as well. Fair enough. Let's do that, right? Yep. So does anyone want to share with us a reason for your anxiety? We can actually use this opportunity to handle and show you how to handle your anxiety. So does anyone want to share? You can just type yes or say I want to share, and we can use your example. You don't have to join the video. I mean, we're not putting you on the spot. You can just share it in words, and we'll figure something out. Would anyone want to share? Okay, I guess not.
All right. And if not, that's fine. Okay. We can do it without. And if people decide that they want something, but we can do something on say generalized anxiety.
Let's do that.
And if
on generalized anxiety, because I know there was a lot of chatter and interest because of anxiety. So let's stick to the generalized anxiety part of it, and let's go through with that.
Okay. And so one of the things that I want to say before we start too is that, so when we're tapping, one of the common phrases used is to say,
oh, so Deepika says, is there any specific point to come out of a mood swing? Anxiety is also
yeah, I wouldn't say that there's a specific point. Again, all of these are activating your parasympathetic nervous system, and so again, it may be whatever works best for you. I say, starting on the hand, that's where I tend to go. And even like I've had a lot of social anxiety in my life, and so it used to be like when I was going to an event and driving there, I would be tapping on the steering wheel with that part of my hand just to calm myself down. There's also what's called the sore point on the chest, which if you find it, it's just find the point that feels sore and rubbing that. And that is also a good spot to change any emotional pattern. But otherwise, again, and I'll say this over and over, it is what feels good to you, what feels good in your body. And that might be different depending on different things.
Right. So thanks, Deepika. So what we'll do is probably have him take us through this entire procedure. I think then the process in itself will also become clear for us, correct? So maybe walk through it once for us. And at the end of it, if you have certain doubts or certain specifics, then we can ask you. Does that make sense, Gregg?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. So let's do that then first. Let's learn.
Yeah. And again, what I wanted to say is that there are these typical phrases that we say in when we're doing the tapping. And so one is, I love and accept myself. And for some people, it's not easy to say I love and accept myself. And if that is hard for you, or maybe it's I have a great deal of love and acceptance for myself, and when I'm in a certain emotional state, it can be hard to access that. And so if that is the case, or if that's coming up, then you can say, I'm open to the idea of loving and accepting myself, or I want to love and accept myself, or you can even say, or I'm trying to relax my body now. So I say this to give people full permission for whatever words that I'm using. You don't have to use the exact same words. You can follow along, but you can use things that fit with you. And this is something that I'll say to my clients too when I'm doing it in session is, feel free to add anything. Feel free. My words don't resonate. Change them to what fits for you.
Okay. So noted. So the most important thing, again, I'm just reiterating for the audience, as you're going to be going along and following Gregg through the different EFT points, make sure you're using a phrase that resonates with who you are, right? So maybe in this case, if I've understood you right, like Deepika says, how do I come out of a mood swing, right? So in her case, she can probably tell herself that uh, irrespective, I am accepting of who I am, or I love myself no matter what, right? Or nothing, no
Yeah.
mood is going to affect me. So can you use negatives?
Say what you mean by can you
Like
use
saying
negatives?
that, or actually you can say, I'm not going to be affected by my mood swing. Can you say that? Or I'm going to be
Oh
my
yeah,
mood swing
yeah.
right now. Or I'm taking the power over
Yeah,
my mood swing. Or I'm taking control of it. Is that fine?
exactly. Or even as simple as, and I'm working to heal this
Yeah.
right now, or I'm working to change the state. And I, you know, since you said the thing about negative, I do want to bring up that often in EFT, we, you know, there is so much about positive affirmations, which can be helpful, you know, and always looking at the positive, but we are often looking at negative stuff in EFT and saying things that negative, and the reason is these are thoughts that are in our head, whether conscious or unconscious, and we want to work on what is actually there, not as a way of holding this in, but as a way of releasing.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
All right. So, and I see the question. Yeah, I am at peace with my emotions. That's a great way to answer it.
Perfect. Sounds great.
All right. So doing it again. Oh, and the last thing before we start is that it's not imperative, but it's good to take a measurement of what is the level that I feel it. So, you know, if you say right now my anxiety is a 6 of a 0 to 10 scale, or my anxiety is a 5 or it's a 10, noticing where it is so that we can see movement. And sometimes in an initial round of tapping, your anxiety may actually go up because you're going to be focusing on things, and that's totally okay. It just means that we've hit the right spot, and we continue and can
Wonderful.
reduce
That's
it.
good to know. So that disclaimer was needed, right? So as you're going through the
Yeah.
process, just reiterating again, it's quite possible that you feel worse before you begin to feel better. But that feeling worse is a reiteration, it is a reiteration or an endorsement of you doing things right. So keep going. Don't stop. All right? Back to you, Gregg.
Yeah. Obviously, you know, if you get too activated, take care of yourself and do something different. But just simply noticing it go up, you know, is completely normal. I'm not saying that that will happen, but it's normal for that to happen. There was one other piece that I'm forgetting, and I'm sure I'll remember.
Yeah, I'm sure too.
Oh, the other piece just is, so we're looking for where is it in the body. So, you know, I'm feeling anxious about this talk that I'm going to give, and so you notice it in your stomach, and so you notice it in your chest, wherever it is for you. You notice it in your little finger. You speak to the places that you notice. So I'm going to say some spots. They may or may not resonate for people, and again, you can always change that.
Let's do it. So we begin?
All right. So, yeah. So I'm, if you're open to this, I will say it and you can just repeat. Okay, perfect. So even though I'm feeling all this anxiety, and I notice it in my stomach and in my chest. I'm choosing to love and accept myself now. Even though I feel all this anxiety. And it's been weighing me down. And I feel it in my stomach and in my chest. And I'm choosing to love and accept myself now.
And I'm choosing to love myself and accept myself now.
I'm choosing to be compassionate with the way that I feel.
I'm choosing to be compassionate with the way I feel. Yeah.
All this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
I notice it as a heaviness in my stomach and in my chest.
I notice it as a heaviness in my stomach and in my chest.
And I'm creating safety for myself in this moment.
And I'm creating safety for myself in this moment.
And I'm at peace with my emotions.
And I am at peace with my emotions.
I'm choosing to love and accept myself.
I lost your voice. I'm choosing?
I'm choosing to love and accept myself now.
I'm choosing to love and accept myself right now.
All this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
It's been causing me so much stress.
It's been causing me so much stress.
It has such a big impact.
It has such a big impact
on my life. I'm so tired of feeling all this anxiety.
I am so tired of feeling all this anxiety.
I wonder what messages this anxiety is telling me.
I wonder what messages all this anxiety is telling me.
And I'm choosing to be compassionate with myself.
And I'm choosing to be compassionate with myself.
I'm choosing to acknowledge my emotions.
I'm choosing to acknowledge my emotions.
I'm choosing to create peace within my body.
I'm choosing to create peace within my body.
All this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
It limits my life.
It limits my life.
And I'm open to the possibility.
And I'm open to the possibility
that I can release some of this anxiety now.
That I can release some of this anxiety now.
It's safe to feel all of my feelings.
It is safe to feel all of my feelings.
It's even safe to feel this anxiety.
It's even safe to feel all this anxiety.
It doesn't always feel safe.
It doesn't always feel safe.
But I'm creating safety for myself right now.
I am creating safety for myself right now.
I'm choosing to release whatever anxiety I can.
I am choosing, I lost your voice actually. I'm choosing to
release whatever amount of anxiety I can.
I am choosing to release whatever anxiety I can right now.
I'm choosing to be compassionate with myself.
I am choosing to be compassionate with myself.
With or without this anxiety.
With or without this anxiety. Sorry. Thank you.
Bless you. And I feel all this anxiety in my body.
I feel all this anxiety in my body.
And I'm allowing my body to relax.
I'm allowing my body to relax.
Allowing my nervous system to relax.
I'm allowing my nervous system to relax.
Releasing all this anxiety that I'm in my chest.
Releasing all this anxiety that I feel on my chest.
I'm accepting all my emotions.
I'm accepting all my emotions.
And I'm open to loving and accepting myself.
And I am open to loving and accepting myself.
I am choosing to be compassionate.
I am choosing to be compassionate with myself.
Okay. And then if this feels good, you can take a breath of whatever breath is good for people, or just notice your body. And then we check back in with ourselves.
The words definitely helped. It kind of guides the mind on what it needs to be doing and what it needs to be feeling, right?
Yeah.
And I think that definitely helped. For me, I think this worked more and the side. So that is something I think I would probably, try and reiterate and see how that feels for me and build on it. Because unless and until I don't build on it, I won't know. I won't know its true potential and the impact that it's capable of having for me. Right?
Yeah. I love that you noticed that, and there are definitely some points that feel better at different times and better for different people. And I want to say with like what you said, like on the chest part, like when, if you're like, I'm so used to doing it, I'm totally open to just tapping my whole self in public. But when people are feeling anxious and are feeling self-conscious about that, you can do things like, as I said before, it's just activating the point. So, you can be rubbing your chin and activating a point, or you can be on a bus or public transport and, just doing this. It doesn't have to be this whole big thing.
Right. That's a great idea. In fact, that's a wonderful hack. And obviously you've done this before, so you thought about it. I mean, I don't even think we've reached there yet, right? So this is good. This is absolutely good. You're right, because you can't just keep doing this. I mean, maybe you can, but then people will just misconstrue it as something else, right?
Right. And for me, it's an opportunity to explain that to people. But I mean, when I first started doing it, I come from a history of social anxiety, and so like, when I first started doing it, I didn't want to look weird in public. But I mean, now I don't mind it at all. But there are so many ways that you can do it. I mean, even
rubbing yourself,
just like holding your hand across your lap, rubbing.
Yeah. No, I think this will work for most people. Is that true? Do you think this works for most people? I think so too. Okay.
Yeah. The two most common ones are this and on the chest, whether it's below the collarbone or on that sore spot that I was talking before. Interesting. And I want to say that you mentioned the words helping you, and so like when I'm working with a client, then like I used that I saw in the chat, but when I'm working with a client, then we go over the specific story, what's going on, what's happening, what's the cause of this right now, and some historical causes of it, and so we use words that are very specific to the person.
I can totally understand that, because that's what guided meditation is, right? And that is something that I also do a lot of. And using the words is really what makes or breaks it. Right. Because that's where the alignment comes. That's where the conscious barrier drops its resistance. And that's where we allow the body to heal and accept. But one question I did have, Gregg, do you need multiple repetitions of this? How does that work?
So it depends on what's going on. So let me answer that question in just a minute, and I want to go back to one thing that you said. That yeah, it is very beneficial. The more specific we can get with the words, the better. And I also want to give people full permission that if you use no words at all, if you are just tapping on yourself without any words, and I say this because of the perfectionism thing, you don't have to do it
Fair
perfect.
enough.
So if you're just tapping, you are still activating the parasympathetic nervous system. Yet the more specific you can be with it, the better, because it is those specific words are also what is activating the sympathetic nervous system. So we want to try and calm them by being as specific as possible. But yes, you do not have to do it perfect. So even if you
Wonderful.
use no words, it's okay.
Thank you for saying that. I think that was much needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sorry, I said I was going to answer your
question was, that's all right. It's good. It means that you're so passionate about it, right? And you were just thinking about this. So it's a good sign. So the question that I was asking is, for tapping, right? Is there a number of iterations that you need to do?
Yeah.
For it to sustain and for us to impact both. One is sustenance and one is just to see an initial result.
Yeah, exactly. So we can have an initial result very quickly, and there are things that are called the 1 minute miracle. Like the person who came up with this, a psychotherapist who was actually studying acupuncture and working with a client for a year, who had this phobia of water, where they couldn't take a shower, they couldn't do so much, and nothing that this person was doing was working well the fear. And they as he was taking this acupuncture course, asked the person, when you think about water, where do you feel it in your body? And they said, well, I feel a queasiness in my stomach, and realized that the point under the eye is the stomach point. So he said, all right, I want you to think about water and be tapping on your under your eye. And as the person was doing that, after trying many different things, this suddenly worked from, like, they felt calm, tapping under the eye, and like the queasiness in their stomach went away. And they went out, they were at the psychotherapist's house, and they put their feet in the water, and like, heard. And that can happen. That's not the typical way things happen. And so, the concept of neuroplasticity,
correct,
we're rewiring parts of our brain. And the way I to explain it with a nature metaphor, if there is a trail through the forest, and this trail is well worn over years of people going, but then it becomes dangerous to use that trail. And as we are creating a new trail, and maybe there's this and it's great, but it's full of brambles and other stuff, and it's hard to get through. You need to trample it down more and more. You need to walk on that trail easier and easier. And the other trail overgrown, and that's a process. How many times? There's a specific number. It's what works for you. There's a concept in EFT called table.
Okay.
And what that means is, if we're having anxiety, for example, let's just say again that it's about a talk that we have to give at work, and maybe we feel this anxiety because in 3rd grade we gave a speech and everybody laughed at us, and maybe we feel it because our mom said something harsh when we were trying to show off to other, and and maybe there's all these different stories. Well, we don't have to work on every single story. The idea tabletops is if we work on a few legs and we figure out what those are, then the whole tabletop comes down. And so that, supports relieving the anxiety.
Wonderful. And I'm glad you described this too, because this is very important for whosoever is going to be hearing or seeing this video later on, right? Sometimes it's just important to pick and choose. It's like they say, choose the battles you want. So once you pick the battles that are important for you, everything else, you just realize that you won the war.
Exactly. And I'll say this both, whether you're working with a practitioner or you're working on your own, you may have things come up that feel like they're totally unrelated. So like, let's say in this example that I just gave, of a speech at work, well, it just so happens that the walls in the room are painted a certain shade of blue, and you're thinking, like, as you're doing tapping, you're having this memory of the blue room where you had a bad experience, and you're thinking, why am I thinking this blue room? It has nothing to do with the anxiety that I'm talking about. But then it's like, oh wait, the room that I'm going to give the speech in is blue, and this incident happened in blue. And you may not ever make the correlation, but my point is saying that there are, if you're tapping on something and you have a thought come up and your thought is, this has nothing to do with it, that's okay. Go with it. Use that, and you'd be surprised at where it gets you. Whatever is coming up for you is the thing that you want to work on.
Exactly. Your instinct is there for a reason. So if there's a thought that is being bubbled by it, it's there for a reason. So trust it, I think, and go with it. That's the biggest thing, right? Learning to trust yourself and your instinct. So that's critical. So before I let you go, I know we are at the hour already, but if you have a few more minutes to spare, can you actually do a breakdown for us of what the different points are? Like you told me this about changing the narrative, right? Changing the story. Like if you have something, So what are the different points? I mean, I know there might be too many, but could you just do a summary for us?
Yeah, to be honest, I couldn't do a summary for you, and the reason is there is something EFT, which is thought field therapy, which is the precursor to EFT, and TFT is the one where there are very specific points that you're using, and so in TFT, you do that, and I'm not saying one is better than the other. The reason EFT came about was so that you don't have to know all those specifics.
So it's in a way not putting the pressure on the doer, the client or the practitioner, right? It's in a way, all encompassing and taking care of the issue in a better fashion.
Yeah, and I've thought many times about, like, going through the process of memorizing what does each specific point do, but I've found that for me that's not beneficial. That's beneficial for somebody else to do that, and again, as you do, it's about trusting yourself and seeing what works for you. So if knowing the points are important, I recommend looking up TFT versus EFT, and that will give you more specific points.
Okay. So something that I deal with also, like relationships. Let's say you want to get over a relationship trauma, or you want to overcome someone, you want to forget about an ex, right? Would this work?
It would, and again, you want to be as specific as possible. So you want to do it in a safe way, though. And so what I mean by that is, if you have a lot of trauma about an ex, you don't want to go directly into what was the most traumatic thing. I mean, unless that feels safe to do so, but we don't want to start with what is the heaviest thing. We want to start with even just they call it sneaking up. And so even though I have all this anxiety about this ex, or even though I have all this anger about my ex, I'm choosing to allow my body to relax. I'm choosing to love and accept myself. But you can go into specifics, and I'm just going to make up some stuff, but it'd be like, every time they loaded the dishwasher, they did it wrong and it made me so angry, or, or they belittled me in a certain way, or, whatever it is, you want to go into what are the specific things, what are the words that the person used, what are the circumstances, and the more specific you can be, the more it's going to help to release that anxiety.
Interesting. Good to know.
Or whatever.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay. All right. So.
Yeah, and again, I want to say two things on that. One is, so as I said, you can look at videos on YouTube, on my site, and those, so looking up EFT for relationship issues, and that is going to help a lot. And that's how I started my journey in EFT, is looking at videos. The downside of videos is they are not specific to you, so that's when, and even though I am a practitioner, if I'm having some struggle, I'm going to go to my own EFT practitioner, because they're going to ask me questions and draw things out that I might not.
I do get that. And I think this is one lesson that is very important for the audience also, right? That sometimes, there's no harm in going to a practitioner, right? When you're sick, when you do have clinical symptoms, you do go see a doctor to get you the correct diagnosis, right? And that essentially is what a practitioner is also doing. And I'm talking about the therapy practitioner, right? Getting you maybe a specific or an accurate diagnosis, and hence a solution that would work for you, rather than you just casting a big net and thinking, oh, I'm just going to Google it and just going to try all of this and see whether the fish will catch or not. That's just like casting a big net, right?
Right, exactly. It's casting a big net, and you also want to do it in a safe way, and especially for anything that's traumatic, you really want to be working with somebody who can slowly take you through a process and be keeping you safe while you're doing it, so that you're not re-traumatizing yourself.
Bang on. I think that's perfect. That's key. That's critical, actually. All right.
Yeah.
Does the audience have any questions before I let him go? Do we have any questions at all? Do you have any anxiety that you want to let go of, or someone in your family, and you want to know how that needs to be done? Any question at all? Okay, if not, what we can do is, anyone who's watching this video at a later time, if you have a question about anxiety or what needs to be done, and or what you need to avoid, right? Go ahead and leave a comment and tag me or tag Gregg, right? Tag Gregg at In Connection with Nature, right? So it's not Gregg Berman. There are many Gregg Bermans on Insta. I did that mistake, which is why I'm laughing over it. So please just tag In Connection with Nature, right? That's his handle. And one of us will get back to you about whatever your query might be.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. Any words of wisdom, Gregg? Any parting words?
I would say just take care of yourself, give yourself permission for your full expression, and that means the uncomfortable parts too, because we often want to push these away, and yes, it makes sense to want relief from negative emotions, but if we're just pushing it away rather than accepting that there is some part, whether this is anxiety, anger, sadness, there's some part in us that is hurting, some part in us that's needing care and attention. And if we can give a little bit of love to that part rather than just trying to push it away and make it not exist, then it can be very healing.
Well said. I think well said, right? Because the only path to getting better is first accepting. Because if you're in denial, then you're just pushing it under the carpet or under the rug, and that's going to just stay there and grow and grow and grow.
And it's going to try and come up, and you're just creating this friction.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, I lost the connection for a second. Actually, I got a call. So because I got a call, it just auto did it. It just paused this. All right. Fair enough. I think those are great words. Thank you so much, Gregg. I mean, it's with a lot of humility and a lot of gratitude that I thank you for doing this. I found the session super helpful, and I'm sure that as the audience watches this or whenever they do, right, they are going to find it super, super helpful. And this seed, this breadcrumb that you have left in the universe is going to catch, is going to grow, and is going to come back as sunshine and light to your life. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all the breadcrumbs that you're leaving in the universe. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is a lot of fun.
Here. All right. Take care now. And we'll stay in touch, even besides of this. Take care. Bye now.